let's look at the individual pieces of it. Yes, ma'am?
Can you just go over again how consideration is a relegation price?
Okay. To have a valid contract, well, this is a very good question, is you have to have consideration. Now, if any of you bought real estate, you may have noticed in the deed, it'll say for $10 in other good and valuable consideration, I convey this real estate. It doesn't say a specific amount. Now, your contract will say $500,000, but your deed says $10 in other good and valuable consideration. To estimate what you paid for the property in the public records, people can only guess, because if you pay cash, the only thing that's in the record is that deed that says $10 in other good and valuable consideration. It doesn't say $500,000. Now, the reality is most of us need a mortgage. So if you have a mortgage and the mortgage is $350,000, we might estimate that you put down $160,000 and that therefore we can back into an estimated payment of $500,000 for a $340,000 mortgage. But that's still a guesstimate. But that's a recitation of consideration. Now, technically speaking, you do not have to pay fair consideration. Classic example, getting back to famous paintings. Remember a few years ago, somebody's in an old used junk store, a flea market type store, but and they see this old painting and they buy it for the frame. Well, it turns out that they take it home, they take it apart, they're about to throw the painting away. They realize there's another painting underneath. It's been painted over with some acrylic or something. They're smart enough to take it to a restorer. The restorer takes the cover painting off. Somebody reused the canvas and says, this is $1 million artwork. Now, the used stuff store then says, we should get something for this because we only got $25 and you got $1 million. It's not fair. Consideration does not work that way. Consideration is, did you pay any consideration? Now, if you stole them, you were in there and you shoplifted it, very different story. If it's something stolen, the equitable right always remains with the rightful owner. But in terms of if you pay $25 and you were lucky enough to turn it into $1 million, more power to you. That's why consideration, but it just has to be consideration. It's not an issue of is it fair. Now, fairness comes in again if you've got a minor or an elderly person who may be impaired. The court may step in and say it's not a fair deal. The person didn't have the capacity to negotiate a better deal. But normal day-to-day stuff, that's why as business people, the burden is on us to make sure the deal is fair. I'll carry that one step further. A real case from just a couple months ago. I was actually out of town, and I get this sad email from a contract negotiator for a local business. And he says, I've got a problem. I bid some work, and I bid $60,000. It's a $100,000 job. I missed something in the calculation. And the contract's all signed. The owner of the company picks it up. So the guy that calls me is not the owner. He's the contract negotiator. He's been doing this for years and years and years. A very good guy. Very good work. Not an attorney, but very knowledgeable on contracts. And I had to tell him, I said, you have entered into a contract. The company accepted the deal at 60. And he's like, but yeah, we're eating 40,000. And I said, I don't think you're going to want to pay the legal fees to find out that you should have taken the 60 and written it off. Now, what I did tell him is an important thing to keep in mind. So, because what we have is we have an offer and acceptance, which fits perfectly. Next chapter, chapter 14, is on offer. Is if they come back and say, oh, you know what, we really like it done this way. As soon as they change the deal, you have the opportunity to step in and get more out of the deal. Okay? But as long long as they stay with the deal as it's done, contracts are important. Again, that's where having that hard written contract can come back to haunt you. Most of the time, it's your friend. In this particular case, it wasn't. Gave the person the best advice I could give them, which is, you gotta live with the contract. And I'm pretty confident, I'd say with 95% confident, that if they had gone to court to avoid the contract, they probably would have lost. So what we do in business is we say, eat it, let's move on. Basically, that wiped out all the profit on that deal. Most likely that went into their, went below their margin, well below their margin. That's the elements of contract, right at the beginning of the chapter 13. So what we talk about is an offer is, would a reasonable person, the position of the offeree, believe the offer is communicated an offer? A classic example of this, television commercial. Pepsi says, if you bring in 1 million bottle caps, specially marked bottle caps of our deal, we will give you a jet fighter plane. Now the fine print of the contract says, of the promotion says, that you can substitute money for all but 10 bottle caps. So a couple of yahoos get together, they get their 10 bottle caps and put together a bunch of money, and they show up at PepsiCo and they say, we're ready for our fighter jet. And of course, a fighter jet's worth, like millions and millions of dollars. This was quite a while back. So today, I think a fighter jet's like worth like $100 million, something ridiculous like that. So in any event, it ends up in court. Big surprise, ends up in court, right, folks? That's where business law. So the court says clearly it was never intended to be taken seriously. Everybody knows, first of all, you can't, as a private person, own a fighter jet. You can own a World War II Mustang that's been decommissioned, but you can't own a current modern fighter jet as an individual. You can't do it as a business. It's just not going to happen. So in any event, they said, since it was fanciful, nice try, guys, but stop wasting our time out of the court. Okay? Because it wasn't a real offer. So that's what we want to focus on. It has to be the real thing. And you have to have the present intention to be bound. I will. I am going to sell. Must be unconditional. Lengthy negotiations, we talked about incorporation already. Now, under normal contract principles, we do not have gap filling. The contract is, the contract is. However, remember the Uniform Commercial Code exists to expedite commerce among the states. Okay? So under the Uniform Commercial Code, if in normal commerce for the type of item that you're negotiating, you have something missing in the terms, you're allowed to fill the gap. Again, merchants, Uniform Commercial Code. Here's an example. You have a natural foods bakery. You get a delivery every week of 100 pounds of organic flour every Tuesday. They forget to put in the order pounds. It just says 100. The UCC in that application permits you to read in the gap of the word pounds because it makes sense in the way the product is sold. So common business terms can be gapped in. But that's again on the Uniform Commercial Code. That's not under the regular common law contracts. Where we get into this, remember we talked about offer acceptance, is normally today, this is much advanced from where it was even 10 or 15 years ago. Email acceptance is very common today and fully binding. And this is where a lot of people get into trouble because they'll say, oh, but we just have some emails. I'm like, they're asking me some questions. I'm like, I want to see every email. They go, are you for real? I'm like, yeah, I'm for real. It's, you know, put them into a Word file, email that sucker to me. We'll take a look. We'll decide if you made a contract or not, and how close you are. So be careful about that today because it's a very moving landscape. And but generally speaking, we're accepting a lot of stuff by email today. Telephone calls, not so much. You can do that, but that's not how we do it. And sometimes people are engaged in telephone negotiations I always encourage my clients to send an email, make a confirmation. We'll come back to that one topic later. Yes,
What
ma'am?
about texting? You think text?
Oh, texting? Yeah, texting. Oh, sure. Yeah, texting and email to me are, pretty close. Again, I prefer email over texting because email has more persistence. So if we're out there trying to prove something up, it's going to be easier to prove up with email. And I've got a good story for you on texting. We'll get to it in another chapter. You must know about the offer in order to have the offer. Communication, that's pretty straightforward. Now, auctions. How many of you here have been to an auction? Okay. What kind of auctions?
It's house auction.
House auction. Interesting. So did the house sell?
Yeah, not to us.
Didn't sell? Okay, but you were there trying to buy a house.
My father was at.
That's pretty cool. Okay. What type of auction?
Equipment auction, Rich Brothers.
Equipment auctions, very common way to sell equipment for different companies, and not just repossessed equipment, but also if companies are trying to get rid of some of their old equipment and all that. I've been to equipment auctions, I've been to car auctions, been to antique auctions, a few different things. The content of the auction is basically, again, an implied contract. Even if there's no paperwork, when you go there, you put your sign up, you are entering into a contract. It's a pretty clear deal. Now, the reality today is almost all auctions today, you sign in and you get an auction number. And if you don't get the auction number, you can't bid. And you don't get that auction number until you sign the contract. So even though this is using auction as an example of kind of an informed contract, the reality is that most modern auctions today, you actually sign a written contract. And we're going to talk about this in negotiable instruments, but today, a lot of us, in the old days, we used to have to show up with a cashier's check or certified check. Today, most of the time, you show up with plastic. Just say, yeah, here's my MasterCard, and they check and, see if you've got enough money on it to do something, and, they'll give you a card, they'll give you a bidding number. Remember, your bidding number is not limited by the capacity in your card. Keep that in mind.
Sometimes I have fees to even enter the auction.
Yeah, you put 5,000 up to bid, and then if you don't get the bid, they give you the 4,500 back or something like that. Some of these you have to pay to play. Yeah, no question about it. It's very interesting, yeah. And now, a lot of times, I have very mixed emotions on house auctions because it seems to me, given the amount of money involved in inspections and getting mortgages and stuff, it seems to me that would be a difficult way to do things. Unless you're buying, like, you're in the business of doing it, you've got bank financing in advance where you show up with $1 million and you can buy 4 or 5 of the houses, like if the builder goes bankrupt and stuff like that. And of course, one of the best known auctions is a foreclosure. And I'll just talk about now, it's in the real estate chapter. But with a foreclosure is technically the trustee for the mortgagee is supposed to go to the steps of the courthouse and put it up and all that. Rarely does the property engage in any bid. Usually it's the person that the trustee buys in for the mortgage amount. Why is that true? Because generally speaking, if the property is worth more than the mortgage amount, it would already have sold. So, it's a pretty straightforward deal. Keep in mind, duration of offers. When I buy real estate, I put time in there, usually give them 48 hours. And the last property I bought, we gave them 48 hours, they called us up and said it was a foreclosure. So a bank board needed to vote on the offer, and they called me up and said, hey, we like your offer, but we can't approve it in 48 hours because the bank board. So they said, can you give us two times, give us, say 48, 96 hours. And I said, yeah, sure. And so they came back and said, we got the deal. Now here's a very important point. They said, you got a deal. 2 days later, they called me up and said, we're changing our mind. I said, what would you like to do? Would you like to honor the deal, or would you like to see me in court? They called me back 10 minutes later and said, you have the deal. Of course, we've been paying for it ever since. We bought it. It's, what they say, it's you buy an old house, it's a Ford, fix or repair daily. So we got 2 fix or repair dailies. But in any event, a good idea if you're making an offer is to have some limitation on the offer. Now, sometimes if the object of the contract is destroyed, then the offer, in other words, you've made an offer to buy a house and the house burns to the ground, unless you want to make a new deal to buy the lot, generally speaking, you're out of the deal. That's pretty straightforward. Operation of law. Favorite case on this is up in Virginia. They used to sell something, I'm trying to remember the name of it. It's artificial marijuana. What do they call it? Sparkle, or I forget the term. What is it? The common term for it?
Spice.
Spice, there we go, spice. It came in a little tinfoil envelope, and most of us normal people, never see these because they were at the counters of the convenience stores. Most of us run by the pump, put our credit card in and keep going. I didn't even know they sold this stuff, except occasionally you get there and the card reader doesn't work and you've already, all that. So anyway, I knew what the stuff looked like, and I think they had brands like Chrysanthemum and whatever. So the stuff came from West Virginia. So imagine you're a convenience store in Virginia, you buy 5,000, you order 5,000 packets of spice from West Virginia. The state of Virginia makes spice illegal in Virginia. So you can no longer honor the contract because since you entered into the contract, the product is now no longer legally sold in Virginia. No longer a legal object, operation of law. You're out of the deal. And if the offeree or the offeror drops dead or becomes disabled, no longer has capacity, you're out of the deal. Now, this is one of the more famous problems in contract law. How do you know that you really have the deal that you think you have? And this is what we call the mirror image rule. If I offer to sell you a car for $8,000 and you say to me, I will buy your car for $8,000 as long as you put new tires on it and warranty the car for 90 days, you have not bought the car. You have not accepted my offer. You have made a counter offer. Any part of your acceptance is not the same as what is offered to you. You do not have a deal. You have entered into a counter offer. Usually, if you then say, oh, whoa, wait a minute, you didn't take the deal, I'll take the original deal, you've already taken them off the hook. They may say, gee, we think we'll sell to somebody else. We didn't like dealing with you. Perfectly entitled because you have rejected the deal by not accepting it point for point. So, and again, as business people, expect that you're going to do some bargaining back and forth. How about an irrevocable offer? Almost nothing is irrevocable except for short periods of time. So your Ford Motor Companies, we're right in the, kind of towards the end of model year closeout right here in October. So they go in and they say, we are offering to sell this Ford F-100 for $10,000 off list price. Okay, they can't have it off list price for 5 hours. Now they can say, hurry, this offer will only last till the end of the month. They're perfectly allowed to do that. But merchants are under different rules. You're making an offer on Craigslist, and you say, I'm willing to do this on Craigslist. A little bit different if you're a consumer, you're selling some used stuff. But if you're a business, it's expected that your offer is going to be legitimate, meaning it's going to be offered. Now this is why, if you carefully look at newspaper or written ads to sell vehicles, a lot of times it tells you the VIN number. Because it's like, we're offering you this diesel Volkswagen Wonder vehicle, reverted fuel system. Normally we do acceptance in writing in some form. In a perfect world, we would accept stuff face-to-face in writing. Really doesn't happen today. And like I said, probably the most common acceptance today is the DocuSign system. For real estate contracts, a lot of real estate brokers subscribe to DocuSign. You never meet. You just submit your contract, the opening contract is faxed to them. They convert it over to DocuSign, and you just click away. It takes you about 5 minutes to sign a 16-page real estate contract. So a very convenient system. That's pretty clear. We talked about mirror image rule. We talked about merchants. Now this is where it gets a little fuzzy. This doesn't say it on the slide, but this slide is known as the Battle of the Forms. And we're actually doing this right now, a case out of Oklahoma. In fact, same company that messed up and took the $40,000 loss of the contract. They shipped $110,000 worth of equipment to Oklahoma for installation in Canada. Don't think we'll be going up there to get it back. So we got a problem. They didn't get paid. The PO, purchase order, from them doesn't stipulate a state. The PO from my manufacturer here in Houston says all enforcement shall be in Houston, Harris County, Texas. Just printed at the bottom of the form. There's no contract, just an exchange of purchase order. According to Uniform Commercial Code, non-conflicting terms are valid in both contracts. Again, be careful. This is one of the only areas that's a little more difficult. Uniform Commercial Code, merchant transactions come under UCC. It'll be a little bit different than the normal mirror image rule. Remember we talked about gap filling? This is another difference. It's everything's in, even if you didn't agree on it specifically, as long as they don't conflict. So our position is going to be, if we need to sue these cats, that, and by the way, I strictly give consulting today. I don't litigate because I'm here with all you lovely people, and you just can't litigate and be in class. It just doesn't work out. But anyway, so if they cannot get paid, then it'll go to an attorney to litigate the case. But we're going to litigate it here in Harris County because of that one line on the purchase order from my client. Whether that'll stand up in court, I don't know. I'd much rather see a nice, clean, written contract.